So real quick, you guys know I can't talk about too much anyway about the previous game. We can do long-term stuff. We can do previews, obviously, but we've got to give it some time. But I will say this. That was one of my favorite games of the year. Now, you take a look at nope. I'm just going to say it was one of my favorite games of the year. And hey, why not make it two in a row? It's going to be tough. Number one, the Tigers are really good. And number two, you're facing a guy who's pitched really well this season. But the Mariners have George Kirby on the mound. And George Kirby, he got off to a lackluster start. Let's be clear. A lot of that had to do with the fact that the guy did not have a normal spring training. I think they may have rushed him a little bit. Maybe needed another rehab start or two. But he sure looks good now. And, he had that 7-inning, 14 strikeout game, and that's the one everybody will remember. And for good reason. 14 strikeouts is 14 strikeouts. I actually think stuff and command-wise, I think Kirby looked his best against the Pirates in that last start. It doesn't match up statistically. 6 1/3 innings, 0 runs, 9 strikeouts is worse than 7 innings, 2 runs, 14 strikeouts. Even with the infinite amount of runs being added to it. But I just think he looks more like that guy, that George Kirby that we are so accustomed to seeing. And the big thing here is that the command is finally at the level that we're used to. The control hasn't been bad. It's worse than we're used to, but it hasn't been terrible. But as I've talked about a bunch, and I'm not the first person to mention this, so don't think that I am the guy who invented this. But control and command are not the same thing. Control is the ability to throw strikes. Command is the ability to throw strikes where you want them, or pitches off the plate where you want them. It's locating. Strike is a location of a box. Command is hitting that whatever spot you want to hit. This is a weird hand motion. Can you also tell I'm left-handed? Because I use this instead. It should be. I don't know how right-handed people do anything. But I was really impressed with what I saw from Kirby over these last few. And this will be a tough test for sure. Probably due for some run regression. Said that about Brian Wu too, and look what he did. But if George Kirby pitches the way he has as of late, the Seattle Mariners are going to be in this game. And he's going to have to, I think, because, I gave the old jinx to Tariq Skubal, who was not good last night. But Casey Mize, another all-star, 9-2 record, if you're into that sort of thing, quality ERA, and a bunch of numbers that suggest that he deserves that quality ERA. Let's take a look at the Savant page. He's not the hardest thrower by any stretch of the imagination. It's an above average fastball. It averages right around 94.5 miles per hour. But because of the amount of extension he gets, that pitch is right on top of you. Very similar to Logan Gilbert. He doesn't have the same quality stuff as Gilbert, but it's a similar profile. And they have actually a similar arsenal as well. We'll go over that in a second. So his fastball run value is in the 84th percentile. His breaking run value is in the 78th percentile. Off-speed run value in the 15th. We'll talk about that in just a sec. But this is a guy whose expected ERA is 3.13. That's way up there in the good way. Usually, you know how it works. Expected batting average of 232. That's in the nice 69th percentile. 5.9% walk rate, which is excellent. And again, that extension, 86th percentile, 6.9 feet. Wow, a lot of 6.9s there. That's interesting. Really testing my patience. All right, let's take a look at those pitch values because I think that's one of the more interesting things about Mize. And something we're going to do a lot for these previews, right? You got to have something to talk about. So for those of you who are too young to remember or too old to remember, different ways of going about that, but we know how it works. I know it because I'm getting in that age range. Mize was the first overall pick and a guy who was viewed as a high floor and high ceiling guy. He's closer to the high floor than high ceiling, despite the numbers that he's put up this year. But he's a guy who throws a lot of pitches: a four-seam fastball, a split finger, a slurve, a slider, a sinker, and he's thrown one sweeper. But even without that sweeper, let's just call that a mischaracterized pitch. Doesn't have a whiff rate of 100% on it. Might want to incorporate it. He is a guy who will throw 5 pitches, and he uses them quite often. Like, he's not a guy who relies on one pitch all that heavily. Four-seam fastball 32.8% of the time, splitter just above 26, slurve 15, slider 12, and sinker 12. So you're going to get kitchen sink-ish. And you're seeing that more and more from starters. The days of the guys who are just a couple of pitch dudes, it's kind of going away. How many guys have we talked about in these previews now that throw a bunch of pitches? So that fastball, even though it doesn't have a ton of velocity to it, hitters are only hitting 194 against it with a 327 slugging percentage. It's been some good luck because the hard hit percentage on it is 50, expected slugging of 451. But I think the expected stats here don't do always justice, you know? Like, it's, for instance, if a guy generates a lot of pop-ups, the batting average on balls in play is a misleading stat, right? Because you're making super weak contact. It was taught to me by Dave Cameron when I was worried about Chris Young, and he was like, no, because he throws at the top of the zone so much, it's very hard to square up, and the batting average balls in play isn't the same thing there. The pitch that you can get right now is the splitter. 108 plate appearances against it, weighted on base average of 343, slugging 413 against it, and a 269 average. Little bit of bad luck there. Expected numbers are quite a bit lower than that. Expected slugging of 355, expected weighted on base average of 270, hard hit rate of 40.3, which is about average. That's the pitch that you can get here. The slider's really good. 172, whiff rate of 19.4. Actually, that's not very good, but it's a guy pitch that actually is hard to make contact or hard contact against. Words. It's early in the morning. Expected batting average of 208 against that pitch. That is the best outside of his slurve, which hitters are hitting 234 against, but slugging 404. So, and then his sinker, that's been hit pretty hard. 510 slugging percentage, expected slugging percentage of 509, 46.2%. So with Mize, it's about being aggressive when you get that hittable pitch. We talked about needing to be patient against a few guys. I don't think you need to be patient against Mize. I think if you get that pitch in particular, when that splitter hangs, you've really got to take advantage of it. And if you do, you could have some success. But I do think this might be a low-scoring one. Number one, every time the Mariners score a bunch of runs, it seems like they follow it up. And, that's a lot of teams. But there have not been a lot of 12-run efforts, period. But there haven't been a lot of efforts where you score 7, where you follow it up with 6. Not since April, really. So I think this will be a low-scoring game. Was really nice yesterday that you didn't have to use any of your high leverage guys, although I think Bazardo should be a high leverage guy. We'll probably talk about that during the All-Star break. Planning on doing a bunch of stuff during the All-Star break because I'll actually have time. That'll be cool. But Mize is a good one. Mize is a good one, and, maybe a little lucky to put up the numbers he has, but not really. Everything for expected stats is above average outside of, I think there was something with off-speed run value, just because of the fact that he's left some pitches in the middle of the plate. And whiff rate's below average. You're not going to see a ton of strikeouts, I think, today. Knock on wood. But Mize is a solid pitcher. Solid pitcher, and it's tough to get these two guys twice in a row, The Detroit Tigers are a really good baseball team. Let's take a look at the lineups today. I imagine it's going to be very similar. I have not looked at this yet. And yep, It's what I expected. JP Crawford up top, Julio Rodriguez hitting second, Big Dumper hitting third, Randy Rosarina hitting fourth, Polanco fifth, Luke Raley sixth, Canzone seven, Ben Williamson eight, and Cole Young hitting ninth. Pretty standard lineup. Interesting that they kind of switch around Williamson and Young. Maybe that second leadoff guy they're kind of hoping for with Young there. I know he's hit ninth quite a bit, but it seems like they change that around every once in a while. For the Tigers, you've got Colt Keith, Gleyber Torres, Winsell Perez, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Zach McKinstry, Matt Vierling playing center field, Trey Sweeney at shortstop, and Jake Rogers behind the plate. So no Javi Baez for them today. Boy, oh boy, that play from Parker Meadows. I know I can't talk about it, but the Mariners have had some fortune with diving outfielders, to say the very least. Somebody brought that up on my Blue Sky. Follow me on Blue Sky, by the way. I mean, it's not an elite lineup. In terms of hitting for average, there aren't many lineups better in baseball. There's some power in the lineup, too. Riley Green can hit the ball out of the park. Tensor Sporkelson, which is what I like to call him, has some ding-dong pop as well. Gleyber Torres at times. Usually it's when he's facing the Orioles, when the Orioles were bad, but they kind of are bad now. Gettable lineup, but it's going to be tough to win this series, even taking this first game. That's why winning that game was so big, though, because you just got to win one of the next two. And if they have a 2-4 road trip, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not disappointed. My goal was, in my personal opinion, 3-3 would have been great. That's probably not going to happen, but hey, weirder things have happened. But 2-4 is fine. Got to avoid 1-5. And if you can win one of these next two, you will avoid that. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please support Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Use code MOLLYWOP15 to save 15% on your order. They're so awesome, and I appreciate their support so much. I appreciate your guys' support so much. If I'm just being honest with you, these preview videos have not done great, and I'm not surprised. The time that they have to come out isn't the best for YouTube. People want to talk more about what happened than what will happen, which is understandable. But those of you who have subscribed, those of you who have helped, means a lot. It means an awful lot. And hopefully these will start growing. Didn't start out great doing the recaps when I first started either. So we'll get there. And hopefully we'll get there with another Mariner win today. Have a good one.